All right, well, we are moving on to our winter cycle, which kind of leads into, I think, for me, the most fun competition of the year that we do. The Summer Sizzler is awesome, but the Winter is Coming Classic is by far my favorite because it kind of leads into like a great time of year, at least for our family. We love the holidays.
It's like the most wonderful cycle of the year.
Exactly.
And if you're new and you haven't done one, this is our, fourth coming up? Is it fourth or third?
I think
Great question.
I think it's
well, who cares?
Yeah.
it's somewhere between third or fourth annual. I think it's the fourth annual.
How do we not know that?
Yeah, because we host a lot of them.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I have it written, and it's in the overview somewhere.
Yeah, it is. And then after that, we have some time where we do a little bit of a deload for everyone because we know people are busy through the holidays and New Year and all of that. But right after that is the open cycle.
Yeah.
And I bring that up not to panic everyone, but it is true. Like this time of year, you really need to start focusing in on what limitations you have, what things you need to continue to get better at, and start building a base because the open will be here before you know it.
Yeah, a big mistake that athletes make is they are like, oh, the New Year's here, it's time to get ready for the open. And it's kind of, it's kind of too late. Like you're going to be way too far behind if you wait until then.
There is literally no chance because there are, as what it's been over the last couple of years, 7 weeks from when we start our open cycle to the first open workout. And maybe you say, hey, I'm prepping for quarterfinals. Well, that's still only 9 weeks after that. So, or 9 total weeks from January 1 until the quarterfinals. We will see, but assuming that it stays the same. So people just need to keep that in mind.
I mean, I think come the turn of the new year, leading into the open cycle, you can still get better at things, but it's more about sharpening like the current fitness that you have. You're not going to see any massive changes in that short amount of time in terms of like, these are all the progressions you'll continue to get better at versus now, like we're still a good ways out of the season starting. And this next cycle is one of our longest cycles. It's the most amount of training weeks that we have in many of the other cycles that we have. So that also equally rings very important in terms of making sure you get one more really long push on all the limiters that you need to develop.
Yeah, I think that's really important to talk about. Right now, we are still building that quote-unquote base. Like, we're still considering this, like, we're kind of pre-season-ish, right? And so you're doing all the base building now so that you can refine. Ooh, is that coffee that you have?
No, it's tea.
Oh. Tea. Refine those skills or sharpen those skills, as Mike just alluded to, in the open. But if you don't have the base of those skills, it's really hard to refine them come open time. So let's make sure, you identify those things. We have our extra credit. We have our skill programs, which we'll talk about. But let's make sure that you're focused and dialed in, crush the next 10 weeks of training over the winter cycle so that we can all go into the open feeling good, and then we will peak when that happens.
So what is the thing that most people, maybe not even in our program, but most CrossFitters as a whole get wrong this time of year if they are trying to compete, and how did y'all set up the programming to address that?
Is that for me?
Anybody?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is people start training all CrossFit all the time without any true structure to either strength program or skill programs this time of year. That's the one, that the hardcore CrossFit athlete, they're just kind of going nonstop throughout the year. And that's good if you're doing a competition like, let's say, Wadapalooza. You need to be prepared for that in January, so you need to be doing some of that building up. The problem is then there's no like actual sharpening time for the thing that matters most. And if it is for you to qualify for quarterfinals or to qualify for semifinals, you need to be as sharp as possible then, but you're kind of dulling yourself out. It's like having that knife where you're just kind of hitting over and over and over again. It works really well for a while. CrossFit works really well for a while, but over time you dull it out and you just don't have the energy, you don't have the focus. You're kind
Do
of
y'all ever sharpen y'all's knives at home?
Oh,
I
you
never
should.
do that.
I do.
Yes.
Every time I cut anything.
But see, that's the
most Mike thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I've never sharpened a knife in my life.
Yeah,
think about not having a serrated knife and you're trying to cut a tomato. Have you ever try to cut a tomato with a dull knife?
Yeah,
it's
sucks.
so frustrating.
It's just mushy.
Well, that's why I never eat tomatoes.
Yeah.
one of the
Sharpen
many
it and you're
reasons.
like, just like, anyway.
I know that may be a silly metaphor, but everyone gets the understanding, like you want that as sharp as possible to cut through that tomato when it's time to cut through the tomato and not just all year round. The other person, like Mia said, is they're the person that waits. So like they'll just do some stuff. They'll jump in and out of programs, a ton of program hoppers this time of year because they're like, oh, what's the most fun? What thing is the cheapest? Whatever it may be, with no real focus or intention on getting better at the things they need to get better at. And then they get into our program or another program in the open cycle, and they just don't have the base, like we talked about already, to sharpen those skills.
Yeah, I think there's also the aspect of like the human and the culture side of it. Getting into a really busy holiday season for realistically most people, coming in through this last training cycle, there's basically like a month where people kind of derail and fall off the wagon. And honestly, like to me, the amount of structure we provide and then the actual hard deload that we provide has people set up to be so successful going into one of the most important and hardest training peaks of the year. And if you don't have that, that month can kind of really throw you off, and then getting started back up into that open cycle is like really hard.
Wasn't that the original intention behind the Winter is Coming Classic?
Yeah,
to, like,
still is, baby.
navigate people's fall off during the.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of things, right? Like, we just quit trying to battle what people are doing with schedules and lives and thought, all right, well, this is a perfect opportunity for us to hit like a good 8-week training block.
What do you mean by that? Quit trying to battle.
Like Christmas is, or the holidays are here and people are traveling, and it's really easy to look at from Thanksgiving to Christmas and be like, oh, I'm going to be out of town all these days, whatever. I'm just not even going to focus on training. Yeah. And then after the holidays, everyone wants to get back to it, and you've lost a lot if you take that approach.
Thanksgiving bleeds into Christmas, bleeds into New Year.
And it happens fast. Everyone's been there.
Yep, exactly. And then, so we thought, all right, well, perfect time of year, put a community builder, put a hard competition in that keeps focus and intensity in training so that everyone has, all right, like, I'm not going to derail, I'm going to stay focused up to this point. Then once you complete that, now you have the 2 weeks of back off that we provide with good training structure that still allows you to like make sure you're maintaining good fitness, make sure your joints are healthy, and make sure that you're prepped coming into, again, like, we're about to ramp up. We don't want to have to like retrain you after the holiday season. We want you to be ready to go and basically jump right into the hard training cycle.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, was it kind of like, hey, this is going to keep the Winter is Coming Classic is going to keep your eye on the prize, so you're focused, but then also so that once you do it, you can feel good about letting go a little bit.
100%. Like, that is the entire goal. So we have essentially it's an 8-week cycle that leads up to the Winter is Coming, and that is our goal. Like, we want to crush it. We want to have some fun. It's a good benchmark for athletes to kind of see where they stack up against other really awesome athletes, their peer group. And then after that, Chris, to your point, like, hey, okay, take some time off. So the week of Christmas, the week of New Year, we will still have good structured training, but it is the most aggressive deload of the year where the training volume is pretty low. The strength structure is going to be a little lower in total percentage loading, intensity, whatever you want to call it. And it gives the athlete an opportunity to say, okay, I only have to be in the gym for 30 minutes today. I'm going to skip tomorrow, come back in the next day. So they still feel fit, but they can have that time with family, friends, travel, whatever it may be. And then again, to Mike's point, come back on January 1 and crush it.
And people in the past, since we've done this 3 or 4, whatever we decided it was, it goes pretty good for them
15
coming back
years.
in. 15 years on. Yo, if we ever get that far, that'd be cool.
I think the last 2 years we really dialed it in, and it has been awesome. And everyone has been able to jump back on in January and feel like they can just kind of go
they're
full
not
head of
like
steam.
They're not starting from scratch all over again.
Totally.
Nice.
Yeah. Dude, let's jump into the details a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start off with strength. So, yeah, like as mentioned, this is kind of like our final, very strict linear block of strength. So if you're someone who still needs 1RM development, you still need gymnastics, pure strength development, this is a good opportunity for it. So you'll still get another good 8-week training block.